Well, greetings, family from around the world. African family, we're going to bring another video to you today, and we'll be talking about France, Niger, and the African Union. As I was reading, um, the African Union suspended Niger, and sometimes you see the action of ECOWAS and African Union. You wonder why they're not paying attention to the elephant in the room, which is France. And none of them are, I heard a few, just a few, talking about the mistreatment of the mistreatment that France have been doing to the African nations, especially the 14 African nations in West Africa. And I've been waiting and listening to the voices of the president and the ones in power and authority in those countries in Africa. But I haven't seen like everyone is trying to be quiet. Okay. And then I noticed that they suspended Niger. Now, France and the EU, European Unions, are putting sanctions on Niger. And there's in reality, sanctions can't be put on Africa if the leaders would just stand up. But if the EU has the African leaders in their back pocket, then they can put sanctions on them. African peoples around the world should rise up and be strong. There's no reason why Haiti should be in the position it's in. The only reason why Haiti is in the position it's in because the African leaders, the head of states in the African countries, don't know what's going on. If they know what's going on, then they're afraid to do anything about it. But you should at least come together and go feed Haiti. Are you your brother's keeper? Yes, you are. So you should gather up and go over there and at least feed Haiti. You talking about freedom, you talking about liberation. Well, Haiti is the first one that gained that liberation. And the Western nations put sanctions on them ever since they had gained their freedom. Okay, and we're looking at Nigeria gaining this true freedom right now, pushing forward to do that. And we now hear that the African Union have suspended them, and ECOWAS had uh, shut down the electricity in Nigeria. So that tells me that these two institutions is completely controlled by the EU, by the Western empires, by your former colonizer. And you're not doing anything about it. You're putting on the front when your peoples are suffering, when you got little children suffering. They say they love you, they befriend you. Well, if they love you, why they allowing your children to suffer from generations to generations? Tell me that. And if you look at the relationships that France has with the African Union, now France has observer status in the African Union. Now, how could that be? That's why the African Union isn't saying anything about how France is oppressing those 14 countries. That's why the African Union is not saying anything. I heard some of the heads of state speak concerning the oppression of Niger and the other 14 nations. Um, uh, Uganda, I heard the head of state there speak on it. And You're so concerned about democracy, but you're not concerned about your brothers being oppressed from generation to generation. You need to be concerned about that. This is what this is all about. This is about freedom. You are looking to out. You're listening to outside forces convincing you that this is about democracy. Where the ones that's talking to you about democracy, look how they treat your brothers and sisters in their country. Is that democracy, my dear brothers, my dear family in the African nations? This is about freedom. This is about liberation. And you made a big mistake when you allowed France to become an observer. That means France can come in. Let's see here. I'm going to read some things here. I have observant status. You can gain access to important information. France can gain access into the African Union and get important information and know your strategy and know your challenges and build relationships with you to influence you. Your peoples, the peoples that's trusting in you, AU, they don't realize that the ones that's oppressing them are controlling you, but they are controlling you. France is controlling the AU. That's why I don't hear much about the AU members discussing the things that France. Why have you not been discussing the things that France been doing to your peoples? But you're so concerned about Niger seeking their freedom, seeking liberation. That saddens me to my heart. The African leadership need to step up. I expected you to be more farther down the road than you are. But as long as you have France as an observer in the African Union, you're not honoring your peoples. Okay, let's talk about some more of the relationships that France have with the African Union. Okay, here. France is an observer, has an observer status with the African Union, and is one of its main partners. Now, if France is one of the main partners of the African Union, clearly the African Union is not going to say much about what France does, about the mistreatment, about the exploitation, about little babies dying, about not having clean drinking water, about not having good medical facilities, about not having a good education programs, about not having electricity in many of their homes in Niger and many of those nations that France is dominating. And African Union, you need to come out the back pockets of the European nations, the EU. They're controlling you. Okay, now let me see. I'm going to read this. Okay. So France is one of its greatest partners. Through the EU, European Union, France is contributing to the financing of the institution capacities of the African Union. France is financing, using the money that he have taken from the African nations, using the money that he have stolen from the African nations. He returned that same money back to the African Union, which suppresses the African Union. Notably in the area of peace and security, okay, but also in multitudes of sectors such as education. France is partnering with the the African Union in education, Well, let's look at these 14 countries that is mistreating. How's the education system? In those 14 countries, France is imposing its own language on those 14 countries. That's why they're speaking French. What are you going to do about that, my dear brothers? Science, technology, or the development of intra-African trade. France is your partners in trade. It is also contributing in partnership with the African Union mission in Somalia to the multinational joint task force, fighting against Boko Haram and to military exercises for the operationalization of the African standby forces. The support is mainly provided through the AU, African Peace Facilities, and Pan-African Program. So I clearly understand why you're not going to do anything about Niger's situation until you stand up and be men. Well, this is all I have to say, family. Love you. Have a great day.